Good morning. This is Willis Lanier. I'm a master gardener in North Fulton County. And this morning, we're going to be doing container gardening. Some people say, well, what's the difference between container gardening and gardening? A container gardening is when you put plants in some kind of pot and not in the ground itself. Today, we want to touch on three different things. We're going to talk about the three P's. We're going to talk about pots, placements, and plants. The first thing we like to do is talk about pots. Now, pots can be one of the most fun things you do when you do container gardening. When you think of pots, you don't want to just think of a plain old pot like this. You want to think of exciting things, different kinds of containers. And even if you use a pot, a terracotta pot like this, that's fine. But if you would like, you can paint your pot any color that you'd like to go with whatever landscape or scape that you want to use. Today, we're going to show you the different kinds of pots. Pots come in various textures, sizes, shapes, and all of them are fine. The main thing you want to know about a pot is that it has a drainage hole. All pots need a drainage hole. So when you're looking at pots, make sure that's the case because you're going to need the drainage for the water. Now today we're going to use this terracotta pot for our main planting. We're going to use this little uh, pocketed pot. We're going to use this flat bowl. We're going to use a shoe, a tennis shoe, a can, and a mug. So we'll come back to them in just a few minutes. The first thing we'd like to do is to go ahead and fill our pot with soil. Now, you'll have people say, well, can I use last year's soil in this pot? The party line is we prefer that you use a fresh, good potting soil. Leftover soil might have bugs in it, grubs, molds, mildew, fungi. So it's better to start out with a good, clean soil. Today, we're going to use soil. Now, one way of checking soil to see if it's ready to pot is to take a handful of soil and open your hand. If the soil falls apart, it's too dry. If it's clunky and like caked, it's too wet. But when you squeeze it like this and you open your hand and it stays formed and is easy to tear apart, that's perfect soil. So we're going to go ahead and put soil in our pot here. Your grandmother told you that before you put the dirt in, to put gravel or shards of broken up terracotta pots or something in the bottom. We don't feel that that's necessary. Just putting the soil directly into the pot is all that you need to do. Now I'm breaking up this soil. It's been in the bag for a while, so it's a little bit lumpy. So I'm put it in and I'm just kind of stirring it around to break it up a little bit. And we'll go ahead here. When you put the soil in, you want to make sure that you leave a little room to put your plant because each plant's going to have a root ball with it. And you don't want to fill the pot up to being level with the top. If you do, when you water it, the water just runs out. So you want about an inch or so of pot above the soil so when you water it, it doesn't run out. Now today what we like to do is to demonstrate what we talked about using the pots, the placement, and the plants. Now, when people ask about placement, we're talking about you decide now, okay, I want to do container gardening. So you go out in your yard and you look where you'd like to put your pot. Some people wanted a pot to go on their front stoop. Others wanted it in the corner of their courtyard, maybe on their balcony or lanai. And it depends on where you're going to put the pot as to what size pot you're going to need. And so you've decided that you want your uh, pot here. and you like this size pot rather than a little pot. You want a big pot, or you want um, uh, a, a stack of pots to fill the corner. Now, some people have areas where they use huge pots like this. Now, if you fill this up with soil and the soil is wet, it's going to take a moving crew to move this pot. So what we recommend is to fill the pot with empty plastic containers to about 2/3 full. And once you get the containers in, fill in with styrofoam peanuts so that there is no space between the uh, containers you put in. Now, if you put dirt right on top of this, it's just going to soak through, it's going to percolate through the containers that you put in and leave your plants without enough soil around their roots. So what we do is put a layer of landscape fabric right over the top of the peanuts and the pots like this, so that you have a layer that will impede the soil from going down into your pot. Now, the landscape fabric will let moisture and water drain through and drain through the pot. It will help keep the soil a little bit more moist. And now you put your soil in the top third of the big pot, and that way your pot is not so heavy and it's a little more manageable. And the roots grow in the top third of the pot anyway. So we're just kind of helping to make this pot uh, filled up and not be quite as heavy. Now, once you've got your location that you want your pot, and you decided what pot you're going to use, then you say, well, okay, what plants am I going to use? Now, again, this depends on where your pot is going to be located. Is your container going to be in full sun? Is it going to be in dappled shade? Is it going to be in full shade? So the sun requirement is a determining factor as to what plant you're going to buy to put in your pot. Now, today we're going to use actually sun plants. Now, some people will do a container that has shade plants, and that's beautiful, that's great, but you just have to make sure that the plants you put in your pot have the same sun requirement and same water requirements. So they need to have some of the same requirements. If you put a sun plant in the pot with a shade plant and put it in full sun, the shade plant's just going to go away in a few days. So make sure you determine if you have sun, shade, what requirement that is going to take. Now, people will put their container gardening plants in, and it depends kind of on what your goal is. If you're making this container garden for your front step for Friday night when your guests come, you want just full and beautiful. If you're making a container garden, it would be okay to wait 6 weeks or so for it to fill in. You don't have to have quite as much plant material, and know that in a few weeks it'll fill in anyway. But if you want it to look full and healthy, you just have to put in more plants at the beginning. Today, what we're going to do is use this croton for the thriller. We're going to have three components of the container garden. We're going to have the thriller that comes up. It's big. Then we're going to have a filler that fills in the middle, and then a spiller that comes over the side to soften it and make it look a little more attractive. Now, when you pick the plants, I recommend that you not only pick plants that have the same sun requirement, the same water requirement, but also the colors kind of go together. Today, with our yellow in the croton, we're going to put in the yellow plants, and then we'll put some ivy down around the sides. So let's go ahead and do this and see how this looks. First thing, when you can tell this plant is root bound. The roots are coming out the bottom. This is a plant that I had ready for our plant sale this year that didn't work. So I had that left over. Now, when I take, you may notice it, I kind of hold it here. I don't pull it out by the stem. I give it some good support right at the level of the soil, pinch the bottom of the pot, and it comes out. Now, when you look at plant roots, you want a nice, healthy, white, cream colored root. If they're brown and dry, that plant probably will not be the one that you'd want to use. So I'm looking at this and I think that's probably our best side. I'm going to feather this out, get the roots separate a little bit so they'll grow better and take a little better. I'm going to dig a little hole in the back of the pot. This particular uh, garden is going to be a garden that is oriented toward one side. Now you can put your thriller in the middle of the pot and plant the filler around the pot so the pot can be set somewhere where you're going to see it all the way around. This one's going to have uh, a one side so that you can uh, see it from really one side. Now again, these I just bought the other day. They're root bound. They're old. This time of the year is kind of a hard time to get some really good summer plants. So you see I'm tearing off this redundant root collection. I'm feathering the roots a little bit and we're just going to put it in here like that. Now, this is our layer that we call our filler. Again, I'm pinching the roots so the pot will come out and I'm taking this off, just kind of loosening the roots a little bit and again, just putting it in. And when you put it in, you, some people think it's a little aggressive, but you just pack it in, make a little hole. Again, we're going to do this one the same way. All right. And you can see why you don't do this on your kitchen table. It makes a little bit of a mess. Now you see we got our thriller, our filler, and to soften this a little bit, we're going to put some sprigs of ivy so that they kind of hang down a little bit. And this ivy I took right out of my yard yesterday. So that's a good reason to keep some plants in your yard that you can use when you have um, a reason to use them. Now, this is what I was talking about a while ago. Um, you can see that this ivy is not lush like it eventually will be. So it's just the beginning and will fill in, but it's still, even though it's not just a lot of greenery coming out, you can see that it's going to and soften the front of the container a little bit. So that's our um, first one. This is, I can consider it a sun plant, a sun container garden. And we're just going to set this right over here like that. Now, the next one that we'd like to do, we talked about the different, I'm sorry about my device here. I feel like a FBI agent. But the next thing we're going to do, we talked about the sun plants, the shade plants. This is going to be our herb garden. Now, I think herbs are just a lot of fun. And we're going to fill this up with the soil again. Now, herbs are notorious for loving 6 to 8 hours of sun a day. Now, if you don't have that much sun, it's going to be difficult to grow your herbs. But even if you have, if you can, if your yard will give you 6 to 8 hours of sun a day, You can put this near your kitchen and enjoy your herbs all year long. Now, what we're going to do is put this rosemary right in the very top to give it some height. Oh, that smells so good when you just touch the rosemary and uh, just manipulate a little bit. Just smells so good. Now I'm feathering these roots. You see how they were all tangled up? Now this will help to get the roots going and give it a little bit better uh, root system in our pot. So we'll just put this right down into our pot like that.
Excuse me, Willis. Your
Yes.
camera has got. Oh, there you're back. Thank you.
Okay.
Your camera went off for a brief second. It's back.
All right. That's good. Well, I did that so I could smell my rosemary more. But anyway, now um, you see how this thyme is kind of trailing. We're going to put the thyme in one of the windows here. Again, I'm just loosening the roots a little bit. And this is a little small, but I think it will go in. Now, thyme is an interesting little plant. If you get a thyme going in your yard, it's almost like a ground cover. And not only that, it is so good when you use it to cook. Um, the only problem with thyme is it takes a few minutes to take a sprig, and when you cook with it, you don't use the stem. You just separate the leaves like that, and that smells good too. So our thyme is over here, trailing a little bit. Oregano is another interesting herb. All the herbs are really fragrant, and oregano is good to cook with too. So I think you'd enjoy getting that started. And you can see how it kind of fluffs up, but also is a trailer. So we're beginning to get that in there. Now, um, I found another ivy. Let's see. Now this one is sweet majoram. I haven't really used it that much, but I think it's a pretty texture and looks good with the other herbs. So we're just going to put that one in back here. And with your herb garden, you can use these. And if they don't seem to be doing well in your container, you just take them out and put them in another plant or straight into the soil. Now, you can't live without mint. So we got this mint that it smells good too. And we're going to take it, again, feathering the roots so that they will have a better chance. Now, I'm going to put the mint right here in the last pocket. And as we do that, we're touching the mint. You can smell it. We're touching the other herbs. They smell so good. Now, what I like to call this is my salad, is my spaghetti bowl, because I've got all these herbs that you can use in spaghetti. So let me just show you. You see how that all fills in? And although it's green, you have different textures, you have different heights, you have different shaped leaves. I think it makes an attractive container garden. And not only is it attractive, it's useful. Now, um, this flat bowl is what I can call my salad bowl, my lettuce bowl. And what we like to do is put about 3 kinds of lettuce in this flat bowl. I think the lettuce grows nicely in an open, wide, flat bowl. It'll go in this, but if you put it in here, it just shows up better. Now, all right, let's get one of these out. This is a romaine, and when you get your lettuce bowl going, It will give you lettuce throughout the fall. Um, now these are, this is evergreen. Some of these are, now some of this you'll have to put in the basement or somewhere in the fall. They're warm weather plants and cool weather plants. Lettuce is a cool weather plant, and that's why we can plant it at this time of the year and expect it to do well outside for a while. Now, the romaine is interesting in that it is so upright. I'm going to put about three kind of together so that we have uh, a, like this. I'm feathering all these roots again. And you can see this is taking shape. Now this will take a few days for them to really get strong and look good. This is head lettuce. And we're going to put several over here on the side. And what makes this interesting is that they're different textures. And you can see the different colors. The romaine has kind of a reddish color to it. This has a nice green chartreuse color. And we're taking it out of the container again. All right. So it looks like a little farm of different stuff. Now this one, this lettuce is a little bit different. Um, it's the red leaf lettuce. And it'll kind of go with the reddish color in the romaine. It also goes with the nice head lettuce. It's going to be more of a light green chartreuse color. So we're going to put three of them here. The thing about your lettuce bowl is during the course of the fall, you can go out and collect 3 or 4 or 5 leaves of the different lettuces and have a salad every day. Now, if you haven't grown lettuce, I encourage you to do that. It's a good plant. It's an easy plant to grow, and they love these cool nights that we've been having. Now you see here, there's our lettuce bowl. I think that makes an attractive container. As time goes on over the next couple of 3 weeks, these will grow and fill in, and you'll have a nice little container full. Jim, can you find my hearing thing? Excuse me just a second. The next thing is, you see, okay, I got it. Thank you. Sorry about that. Um, the next thing is if you are going to have a nice um, little Tex-Mex weekend casual party out on the patio, and you don't have any uh, table toppers, one of the little things you can do is get a can that has an attractive bright label, punch holes in the bottom of it, and make you a container or three to go down the length of the table for a nice casual dinner. Now, we're going to just do this. Okay. All right. This is an aloe plant. Aloe is a plant that everybody needs in their kitchen. Not only do they grow easily, it's a succulent, and it it will grow in regular potting soil, but generally we put it in cactus soil. And let me get some of that instead. Cactus soil is a lot lighter, it drains easier, and you can buy cactus soil, but you can make your own cactus soil by about 2/3 regular potting soil and 1/3 sand. Some people put other things in it like vermiculite, percolate. But this is now cactus soil. I'm going to put that right in here. And I think that makes a fun little plant for your tabletop. And if you think that's a little bit sparse on the top, get you some uh, colored moss and fill in around the top just to add a little color, add a little interest, and you got a neat little tabletop. Okay. Now, I know that you ladies do ladies luncheons and you're all the time looking for something different from what your friend had last week to decorate with. I'm recommending that you get a shoe and you can put plants in that. We got this was kind of a brownish purple looking shoe, so we got a purple pansy to go in it. And now this may not be a lifelong event, but you can just put it in there and it just makes for a fun plant. There you go. So you could use those. Um, Now, if you're not having a Tex-Mex party, you may be having just your running friends over for lunch or for a Coke. You can use a fancy container like this. And what we're going to put here is something that's not real elaborate, but it's a variegated liriope that will look pretty cool in a running shoe. There you go. Now, if you think that the shoe on the table is a little bit not quite fancy enough, put some gravel in a shoebox top, put your shoe on it, and there you go. Okay. Um, Now, another little idea for succulent, and I'll get some succulent uh, soil, is to get you a real expensive mug from dollar store. And a lot of your friends may need just a little boost. Sometimes they may not be feeling well. And taking them a little plant, a little container garden in a mug really would make their day. You say, well, you can't use a mug because it doesn't have a hole in it. Oh, but look, you get a little drill, a glass tile drill, and you bore the hole in there, and you got a hole in your mug. So it just works really well. Now this, I'm using the cactus soil again because we're going to borrow this aloe and put it in here. Now I think, to me, this is one of the neatest little gifts you could give somebody. Costs you zero amount of money, and yet it would make your friend feel very special. I think that's cute. And I'm going to put a little bit of moss on the top just so your friend will know that you did something special for them. So there we go. All right. Um, so we have today regular plants, sun and shade. We have herbs, total sun. And we have the lettuces. They're going to need 6 to 8 hours of sun a day too. But you'll find that it's worth the trouble to find a container that will show up your lettuces. Now, this may look skimpy, but they will grow. They'll fill in, and they'll give you leaves every couple of days, enough to enjoy not only having planted them, looking at them, but eating them. Then we have our succulents with the um, cactus soil that drains easier. We have our decorative plants just for fun. These are just to show you that you don't have to have a big old terracotta pot to plant a container garden in. Um, I think the biggest thing that you need to take away from this talk is you have to first decide where you're going to put your plant. Then you have to decide what pot fits that location. Is it a big pot, little pot, a series of pots? And also, after you've decided on your location, your pot, what kind of plants are you going to put into your pot? And we reviewed about 4 different kinds of plants and their requirements. But I think that it's an easy thing to do. Don't be intimidated. The biggest thing I would recommend is have fun. Thank you very much.